They've sold out stadiums across 5 continents, shattered streaming records that even industry veterans couldn't predict, and built a self-producing empire that redefined what a 4th-generation K-pop group could be. Stray Kids isn't just a name, it's a movement, a revolution wrapped in bass drops and raw emotion. But here's the thing most stays don't stop to think about. What happens when you've already conquered the mountain everyone told you was impossible to climb? Do you stop? Do you rest? Or do you look up and realize there's an even higher peak hiding behind the clouds? What if I told you that each of these 8 members is still chasing something, a dream so personal, so deeply buried in their hearts, that even years of global domination haven't been enough to reach it? Which member dreams of stepping completely outside music? Who's been quietly preparing for a creative ambition that has nothing to do with the stage? And which one carries a childhood promise that the spotlight still hasn't fulfilled? Buckle up, because this isn't your typical fan list. This is the untold chapter of ambition, vulnerability, and the relentless hunger that keeps Stray Kids running even when the world says they've already won. Let's get into it. Number 8. I.N, the youngest voice that wants a bigger stage. You know what's wild about being the youngest member of one of the biggest K-pop groups on the planet? Everyone sees you grow up, but almost nobody sees you as grown. Hyunjin, the boy who walked into JYP Entertainment with nothing but a dream and a voice that trembled with both nerves and raw potential, has spent years fighting a quiet battle that most fans only catch glimpses of. And no, it's not about lines in a song or screen time in a music video. It's something much deeper than that. I.N has a dream that still sits in his chest like an unfinished melody, and it's one that even the roaring crowds of sold-out arenas haven't been able to fulfill. He wants to stand on a musical theater stage. Not as an idol performing a cover. Not as a special guest making a cameo appearance. He wants to be a full-blown musical actor, carrying a story from the first note to the final curtain call, and he's been carrying that aspiration longer than most people realize. See, here's the thing about Hyunjin that gets lost in the chaos of Stray Kids' explosive discography and their insane world tours. This kid fell in love with musicals before he even fully understood what the idol industry was. Growing up, he was captivated by the way musical theater could make you laugh, cry, and hold your breath all within a single scene. There's a specific magic in musicals that you just can't replicate in a 3.5-minute pop song, no matter how perfectly produced it is. In a musical, the voice isn't just delivering a melody, it's carrying a character's entire soul. Every breath, every crack, every soaring high note is tied to a story, a context, an emotional journey that the audience lives through in real time. And Hyunjin? He gets that. He's talked about it in interviews, in behind-the-scenes content, in those quiet V-Live moments where he lets his guard down just enough for fans to see the real him beneath the idol polish. He's mentioned wanting to try musical theater multiple times, and every single time, you can hear it in his voice. It's not a casual, "oh, that might be fun someday" kind of thing. It's a genuine, burning desire that he carries with him like a secret promise to his younger self. But here's where it gets complicated, and, honestly, kind of heartbreaking if you think about it long enough. The idol schedule is a monster that devours time like nothing else. Stray Kids isn't a group that takes breaks. They're not a group that slows down between comebacks. These guys are constantly creating, constantly touring, constantly pushing the boundaries of what they can do musically and artistically. And for I.N, being the magne adds an extra layer to this. There's this unspoken pressure, sometimes spoken, actually, if you pay attention to how he talks about himself, to keep up, to prove that he belongs, to show that the youngest member isn't just there because of some sentimental role, but because he genuinely earns his spot every single day. And he does. Let's be real, Hyunjin's vocal growth over the years has been nothing short of remarkable. If you go back and listen to early Stray Kids tracks and then jump to their more recent releases, the difference in his tone, his control, his emotional delivery is staggering. He went from being the member people worried about to being the member people can't stop praising, and he did it through sheer, stubborn, relentless hard work. His voice has matured into something genuinely beautiful, warm, clear, and capable of carrying emotional weight that would make any vocal coach proud. And that's exactly why the musical theater dream makes so much sense for him. He has the instrument. He has the emotional intelligence. He has the stage presence that comes from years of performing in front of hundreds of thousands of people. What he doesn't have is the opportunity, and that's the part that stings. The K-pop industry, for all its brilliance and innovation, doesn't always make room for its idols to explore artistic avenues outside the group framework. Sure, we've seen some idols cross over into musicals. EXO's members have done it. SHINee's Wonwoo and Key have absolutely crushed it on the musical stage, and Top's Youngkwang has become a genuine musical theater powerhouse. But those opportunities usually come when the group activity slows down, or during military service periods, or when the company strategically decides to branch out an individual member's career. For I.N, that window hasn't opened yet. Stray Kids is still in the middle of their explosive ascent. They're not slowing down, they're accelerating. And while that's incredible for the group and for stays worldwide, it means that Hyunjin's musical theater dream remains exactly that, a dream. Sitting in the waiting room of Someday, gathering dust while the concert stages keep getting bigger and the album tracklists keep getting longer. And you know what makes this even more poignant? It's the way he handles it. He doesn't complain. He doesn't make it into a dramatic narrative about sacrifice. He just quietly keeps it alive, mentioning it here and there, almost like he's afraid that if he says it too loudly, the universe might forget to make it happen. There's a maturity in that restraint that honestly goes beyond his years. He understands that timing matters, that the group comes first right now, and that his moment will come when it's meant to come. But understanding something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are two very different things, aren't they? Every time he watches a musical, every time he hears a cast recording, every time he sees a fellow idol take that stage under the theater lights, there has to be a part of him that thinks, that could be me. That should be me. Someday, that will be me. The raw potential is undeniable. Imagine Hyunjin in a role that demands vulnerability, a character who starts out uncertain, maybe even underestimated, and slowly reveals an inner strength that no one saw coming. Sound familiar? That's practically his real-life story arc. The boy who was almost eliminated from Stray Kids during the survival show, who was told he wasn't ready, who had to watch his future hang in the balance while cameras captured every agonizing moment, that boy didn't just survive. He thrived. He became essential. And he did it without losing the gentle, warm-hearted nature that makes him who he is. That's the kind of authenticity that musical theater lives and breathes on. The stage doesn't lie, and neither does Hyunjin. So yeah, number 8 on our list is a dream that might seem quiet compared to what's coming next, but don't let the softness fool you. I.N's desire to stand on a musical theater stage isn't just a hobby aspiration, it's a calling that's been whispering to him since before the world even knew his name. And when that day finally comes, when young Hyunjin steps into the spotlight not as the magne of Stray Kids, but as a musical actor carrying an entire story on his shoulders. Trust me, it's going to be one of those moments that makes you realize the kid was never just the youngest. He was always one of the most ambitious. But hey, if you think that's compelling, wait until you hear what's coming at number 7, because the next member on this list has a dream so unexpectedly personal that it might completely change how you see them. Ready? Number 7, Seungmin, the voice that's still waiting for its solo spotlight. Let's talk about something that honestly keeps a lot of stays up at night, and if you're a vocal enthusiast, this one is going to hit different. Kim Seungmin, the member who practically bleeds melody every time he opens his mouth, has a dream that, on the surface, sounds simple, almost inevitable. But the more you dig into it, the more you realize just how painfully unfulfilled it still is. Seungmin wants to sing a major drama OST. He wants to release solo vocal work that exists entirely outside the Stray Kids sonic universe. No heavy bass, no distorted 808s, no experimental noise rock breakdowns. Just his voice, raw and exposed, carrying an emotional story over a gentle piano or a stripped-down acoustic arrangement. The kind of song that plays during that devastating scene in AK drama where the main character stands in the rain realizing they've lost everything. That's the lane Seungmin has been quietly staring at for years, and the fact that he still hasn't fully stepped into it is one of the most frustrating, not yet, stories in the entire fourth-generation landscape. Here's what you need to understand about Seungmin to really grasp why this dream matters so much. This is a guy who didn't stumble into singing. He chose it with surgical precision. Before he even auditioned for JYP Entertainment, Seungmin was already obsessed with vocalists who could make you feel something with nothing but tone and timing. He's talked extensively about his admiration for Day 6, particularly Young K and Wonpil, artists whose voices carry this almost unbearable emotional transparency that makes every lyric feel like a confession whispered directly into your ear. That's not a casual musical preference, that's a creative North Star. When someone at 17, 18 years old is telling you that their ideal sound isn't the flashy, high-energy idol pop that surrounds them, but rather the aching, soul-deep balladry of artists who strip everything away and let vulnerability do the heavy lifting, you're looking at someone with a very specific artistic identity that's just waiting for the right moment to emerge. And Seungmin has been waiting. Patiently. Almost too patiently, if you ask some fans. Within Stray Kids, his role is crystal clear and absolutely vital. He's the anchor, the stabilizer, the member whose voice provides the melodic center that holds the group's often chaotic, genre-defying sound together. When Stray Kids goes full experimental, and they do that a lot, let's be honest, it's Seungmin's vocals that give listeners something to hold on to, a lifeline of pure, clean tone amidst the beautiful madness. And he does it brilliantly. His pitch accuracy is borderline terrifying. Vocal coaches who've analyzed Stray Kids' performances consistently point to Seungmin as one of the most technically reliable idol vocalists in the current generation, and that's not just fan hype, that's measurable, demonstrable skill. His ability to maintain vocal stability while performing intense choreography, his breath control during live concerts where the energy is so high that most singers would crack under the pressure, his tone that somehow manages to be both bright and warm at the same time, all of it points to a vocalist who is genuinely, objectively excellent at what he does. So why hasn't the solo OST happened yet? Why hasn't the solo vocal project materialized? This is where the conversation gets complicated and, honestly, a little frustrating. The K-pop industry has a well-established pipeline for drama OSTs. It's one of the most coveted opportunities for idol vocalists because it gives them a platform to showcase their voice without the group context, and it exposes them to an entirely different audience, the K-drama viewership, which is massive, global, and often distinct from the idol fandom. Artists like EXO's Chen, Tabseok Sungjae, Baekhyun, IU, and more recently, artists from groups like TXT and ATEEZ have all landed drama OSTs that became cultural moments in their own right. Chen's Best Luck for It's Okay, That's Love, Baekhyun's Beautiful for EXO Next Door. These aren't just songs, they're emotional landmarks that millions of people associate with specific moments of heartbreak, joy, and everything in between. Seungmin has the vocal ability to deliver at that level. Nobody who's actually listened to him sing really listened, not just caught a few seconds of a group track, would argue otherwise. His covers alone prove it. When he covers ballads, when he strips away the Stray Kids production and just sings with a guitar or a piano backing, something almost magical happens. His voice takes on this quality that's hard to describe. It's intimate, like he's singing just for you, but it's also vast, like the emotion behind it is too big to be contained in a small room. That duality is exactly what makes a great OST vocalist. You need someone who can make a song feel personal to every single listener while simultaneously carrying the weight of a drama's emotional narrative. Seungmin can do that. He's been able to do that for years. The timing just hasn't aligned. And, honestly, part of it comes down to the nature of Stray Kids' brand and how JYP has positioned them. Stray Kids is, first and foremost, a self-producing group with a very strong sonic identity built around 3RACH's production. Their musical output is prolific, multiple albums a year, special releases, Japanese releases, tour content, collaborations. The machine doesn't stop. And when the machine is running at full speed, individual artistic detours, especially ones that require coordination with drama production schedules, recording timelines, and promotional cycles, become logistically challenging. It's not that the company doesn't recognize Seungmin's talent. It's that the group's collective momentum is so powerful right now that carving out space for a solo vocal endeavor requires a level of scheduling gymnastics that hasn't happened yet. But here's what makes this dream sit so heavily on the hearts of fans who truly appreciate vocal artistry. Every month that passes without a Seungmin solo vocal moment is a month where one of the most beautiful voices in K-pop right now isn't being fully utilized. And fully utilized is the key phrase here, because make no mistake, Seungmin is used well within Stray Kids. His parts are often the emotional climaxes of their songs, the moments where the production pulls back just enough to let a human voice cut through and remind you that behind all the sonic innovation, there are real people pouring real emotion into this music. But there's a difference between being used well within a framework and being given the freedom to define your own. Seungmin hasn't had that freedom yet. He hasn't had the chance to walk into a recording studio, sit down with a producer who specializes in ballads or acoustic pop, and build something from scratch that is entirely, unapologetically his. A song where every melodic choice, every vocal run, every moment of silence between phrases is a reflection of Kim Seungmin the solo artist, not Kim Seungmin the Stray Kids member. And you can tell he thinks about it. In the little moments, when he hums a ballad backstage, when he recommends emotional songs to fans, when his eyes light up talking about vocal technique and the art of conveying emotion through restraint rather than power, you can see the solo artist inside him, fully formed, just waiting for permission to exist. The covers he posts, the way he gravitates toward songs with emotional weight during karaoke sessions and variety show segments, the way he analyzes other singers' techniques with a level of detail that goes way beyond casual appreciation. All of it paints the picture of someone who has a very clear vision of who he wants to be as a solo vocalist. He just hasn't been given the canvas yet. And the beautiful tragedy of it is that he never pushes. He never publicly laments. He never makes it about what he's missing. He channels everything into being the best possible version of himself within the group, and he does it with a consistency that's almost superhuman. But consistency and contentment aren't the same thing, are they? You can be incredibly consistent at something and still carry a hunger for something more. Seungmin's hunger is quiet, dignified, and deeply artistic. It's the hunger of a vocalist who knows not hopes, not wishes, but knows that he has something extraordinary to offer the world beyond what they've already heard. And when that moment finally arrives, when Kim Seungmin's voice floats over the closing scene of a drama that's captured the hearts of millions, when his name appears on a solo track that exists purely as a vessel for his vocal artistry, it's not going to be a surprise to anyone who's been paying attention. It's going to be a long overdue arrival. But hold that thought, because number 6 is about to take this list in a direction you might not expect. We're talking about a dream that has absolutely nothing to do with music, and everything to do with the side of this member that the cameras barely capture. You ready? Number 6, Lino, the idol whose heart belongs to a dream with 4 legs. Alright, this is where the list takes a sharp turn, and honestly, this might be the entry that catches you completely off guard if you only know Lino from his razor-sharp dance moves and his savage sense of humor on variety shows. Because the dream we're about to unpack has nothing to do with choreography, nothing to do with center positions or award show stages, and absolutely nothing to do with the glittering K-pop machine that made him famous. Lee Mi-ho, the man who can execute the most complex choreography with the kind of effortless precision that makes professional dancers weep with envy, has a dream that's soft, quiet, and deeply personal. He wants to create something for animals. Whether it's a cat cafe, an animal shelter, a rescue foundation, or some kind of sanctuary where abandoned and mistreated animals can find safety and love, this is the vision that lives in the part of Lino's heart that the stage lights never quite reach. And before you brush this off as some cute, surface-level idol talking point, let me tell you exactly why this dream runs deeper than most fans even realize. Lino's relationship with animals, specifically his 3 cats, Suni, Doonji, and Dory, isn't just a personality quirk that makes for great social media content. It's a genuine, core part of who he is as a human being. If you've spent any significant time watching Stray Kids content, you've noticed it. The way his entire demeanor shifts when he talks about his cats. The sarcastic, playful, sometimes borderline savage Lee Know that fans adore on camera melts into something completely different when Sunny, Doonji, and Dory enter the conversation. His voice gets softer. His eyes get warmer. The walls come down in a way that no interview question or fan interaction can replicate. These cats aren't pets to him in the casual, conventional sense. They're family. They're emotional anchors. They're the beings who knew him before the fame, who don't care about album sales or Billboard rankings, who greet him at the door after months of grueling world tours with the same indifferent feline energy that somehow communicates more love than a stadium full of screaming fans ever could. And that bond has shaped something inside him that goes beyond personal affection. It sparked a genuine awareness and concern for animal welfare that Lee Know carries with him quietly, consistently, and with a sincerity that's almost startling for someone in an industry that's often criticized for manufacturing personality traits for public consumption. He's not performing his love for animals. He's living it. And from that love has grown a dream that, in many ways, represents the most authentic version of who Lee Miho wants to be when the idol chapter eventually evolves into something new. The concept of an idol opening a cat cafe or an animal-related business isn't entirely unprecedented in Korea. The country has seen a growing movement toward animal welfare awareness, particularly in urban areas where pet adoption, rescue operations, and ethical treatment of animals have become increasingly important social conversations. Cat cafes themselves have been a staple of Korean urban culture for years, but most of them operate as commercial entertainment venues, places where people pay to sit in a room with cats for an hour, take some Instagram photos, and leave. What Lee Know has hinted at in those rare moments when he lets the dream surface in conversation is something fundamentally different. He's not interested in commercializing animal companionship. He's talked about wanting to create a space where animals that have been abandoned, neglected, or abused can be rehabilitated and eventually find homes. A place that prioritizes the animal's well-being over foot traffic and revenue. A place that reflects the same unconditional care he gives to Sunny, Doonji, and Dory, extended outward to animals who haven't been lucky enough to find their person yet. And if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about the real Lee Know, the one behind the idol persona, behind the dance machine reputation, behind the dry wit, and the legendary fan cams, then I don't know what will. But here's the reality that keeps this dream locked in the someday category, and it's a reality that's almost painfully practical. Running an animal shelter or rescue operation isn't a side project. It's not something you can manage from a hotel room in Tokyo between concert rehearsals. It demands daily, hands-on involvement. It requires veterinary partnerships, facility management, adoption screening processes, community outreach, funding structures, and an emotional resilience that goes beyond anything the entertainment industry prepares you for. Animals in rescue situations come with trauma. They come with medical needs. They come with behavioral challenges that require patience, expertise, and time, the one resource that an active idol in the biggest fourth-generation K-pop group simply doesn't have in abundance. And Lee Know knows this. That's the thing about him that people who only see the surface completely miss. He's incredibly pragmatic. Beneath the playful chaos and the I don't care attitude he performs for cameras, there's a sharp, realistic mind that understands the difference between wanting something and being ready for it. He's not going to have to do this. He's not going to slap his name on a commercial venture and call it an animal welfare project for the PR boost. When he does this, and notice I said when, not if, because the conviction in his voice every time this topic comes up makes it feel inevitable, he's going to do it right. He's going to build something real, something sustainable, something that exists not because Lee Know the idol wanted a post-career hobby, but because Lee Miho the human being genuinely believes that every animal deserves a chance at a safe, loving life. There's also a layer to this that connects to something deeper about Lee Know's own journey that's worth sitting with for a moment. He's a member who almost didn't make it into Stray Kids. He was eliminated during the survival show and then brought back, a second chance that changed the entire trajectory of his life. And while he doesn't draw explicit parallels between his own experience and his desire to help abandoned animals, the thematic connection is hard to ignore. He knows what it feels like to be on the outside looking in. He knows what it feels like to be given up on and then given another shot. Number 5. Felix, the deep voice that's dreaming of the silver screen. Okay, stop everything. Close your eyes for a second and just imagine this. A dimly lit movie theater, the kind with the plush velvet seats and the surround sound that makes your chest vibrate. The opening scene rolls. A face appears on that massive screen, freckles scattered across sun-kissed cheeks like a constellation map drawn by the universe itself, and then a voice cuts through the silence. Not just any voice. A voice so impossibly deep, so rich, so texturally unique that it doesn't just fill the room, it reshapes it. That voice belongs to Lee Yo-bak, the boy the world calls Felix, and the image I just described? That's not a scene from a movie that exists. Not yet. Because Felix's dream of stepping into legitimate acting, real, full-length, narrative-driven film or drama acting remains one of the most tantalizingly unfulfilled ambitions in the entire Stray Kids universe, and honestly, it might be one of the biggest missed opportunities in the current K-pop to screen pipeline. Let's rewind and establish something important here, because the conversation about Felix and acting isn't just fan wishful thinking projected onto a pretty face. This is something he has talked about, thought about, and clearly yearned for across multiple interviews, fan interactions, and behind-the-scenes moments. Felix has openly expressed his desire to explore acting as a serious artistic avenue, and every single time he brings it up, there's this specific energy in his delivery, a mix of excitement, nervousness, and deep longing that tells you this isn't a fleeting thought. This is a dream that has roots. And when you start examining why Felix is so drawn to acting, the answer becomes almost painfully obvious once you see it. Felix is, at his core, one of the most emotionally expressive human beings in the K-pop industry. And I don't say that lightly. Watch him in any context, a music video, a variety show, a random behind-the-scenes clip, even a 2-second fan cam, and you'll notice that his face tells stories all by itself. He doesn't just emote. He inhabits emotions. When he's happy, his entire being radiates warmth, so genuine that it feels like standing in a patch of sunlight. When he's contemplative, there's a depth behind his eyes that makes you want to sit down next to him and ask what he's thinking about. When he performs, and I mean really performs, not just executes choreography, he transforms. His facial expressions during Stray Kids' darker, more intense concepts aren't just idol performing intensity. They're acting. Subtle, instinctive, naturalistic acting that happens to be set to music. Directors who know what they're looking for would spot it in a heartbeat. The raw material is right there, unhidden, practically begging to be channeled into a narrative format that gives it the space it deserves. And then there's the voice. Oh, the voice. Felix's bass, deep vocal tone is one of the most distinctive sonic signatures in all of modern K-pop, and it has been both a blessing and a creative conundrum since the day it first rumbled through a Stray Kids track. In music, that voice has been used brilliantly. Those deep spoken word sections, the unexpected low drops in otherwise high-energy tracks, the moments where Felix's voice hits and suddenly the entire song shifts gravity. But in acting? In a cinematic context, that voice becomes something else entirely. Imagine it delivering a monologue in a psychological thriller. Imagine it whispering a confession in a romance film. Imagine it narrating a documentary, carrying the weight of a historical story with every resonant syllable. The possibilities are so vast and so compelling that it almost feels criminal that no major director or casting team has fully tapped into them yet. And here's the layer that makes Felix's acting dream uniquely fascinating compared to other idols who've expressed similar aspirations: his background. Felix is Australian-Korean. He grew up in Sydney, moved to Korea as a teenager to pursue the idol dream, and had to rebuild his entire life, including his proficiency in Korean, from almost scratch. That bilingual, bicultural identity isn't just a biographical detail. It's a goldmine for casting. In an era where the Korean entertainment industry is increasingly producing content for global audiences, think Squid Game, think Parasite, think the entire wave of Korean cinema and drama that has exploded onto the international stage. A performer who can seamlessly operate in both English and Korean, who understands both Western and Korean cultural nuances, who embodies the diasporic experience in a way that's authentic rather than performed, is extraordinarily valuable. Felix wouldn't just be an idol trying acting. He'd be a genuinely unique casting proposition with a built-in global audience and a personal story that resonates with millions of people who've experienced the tension of living between two cultures. But the gap between potential and realization is where the frustration lives, and it's a gap that's defined by the same structural realities that keep showing up throughout this list. Stray Kids' schedule is merciless. The group's output across music, touring, content creation, and brand partnerships leaves almost zero room for the kind of commitment that a serious acting role demands. A K-drama typically requires months of filming. A film can demand weeks of intensive on-location work. Even a supporting role in a major production would require Felix to step away from group activities for a significant period, and in the current phase of Stray Kids' career, where they're arguably at their commercial peak and every member's presence is considered essential, that kind of absence is a logistical and strategic challenge that the company hasn't been willing or able to navigate. There's also the unspoken but very real concern about the idol-to-actor transition and how it's perceived within the Korean entertainment industry. Despite numerous success stories, Park Seo-joon in Siwon, Dio from EXO, IU, the list goes on, there's still a lingering skepticism in certain corners of the Korean acting world toward idol actors. The assumption, often unfair but persistent, is that idols lack the training, the discipline, and the emotional depth required for serious acting roles. They're seen as pretty faces being given opportunities based on fame rather than talent, and breaking through that bias requires not just a good performance, but a transformative one. Felix, with his limited Korean acting training and his primary identity as a dancer and rapper within Stray Kids, would walk into that conversation carrying all the weight of those preconceptions. And while anyone who's actually watched him emote on stage or in content would immediately recognize that he has something special, the entertainment industry doesn't always operate on "watch him and you'll see." It operates on resumes, audition tapes, and the conservative risk calculations of producers who would rather cast a proven actor than bet on an idol with potential. So the dream waits. It waits while Felix pours every ounce of his expressiveness into Stray Kids' performances, giving music video directors material that borders on cinematic even within the constraints of a 4-minute pop song. It waits while he charms millions on variety shows with a charisma so natural and so warm that it makes you forget he's technically performing in his second language. It waits while he posts behind-the-scenes content where his expressions alone tell more story than most actors manage with a full script. And through all that waiting, Felix keeps the dream alive the way he keeps everything alive, with warmth, with optimism, and with a quiet determination that doesn't demand attention, but absolutely commands it if you're paying close enough. The freckled boy from Sydney who crossed an ocean to chase one dream hasn't stopped dreaming just because the first one came true. He's looking at that silver screen the same way he once looked at the JYP audition stage, with terrified excitement and the unshakable belief that he's supposed to be there. He just has to get there. And when he does, when a director finally looks past the idol label and sees the raw, luminous, heartbreakingly expressive performer standing right in front of them, Felix isn't going to just act in a movie. He's going to make you forget he was ever anything else. But you might want to brace yourself, because number 4 hits completely different. We're about to talk about a member whose unfulfilled dream involves stepping out of every shadow they've ever stood in, including the one cast by their own group. Think you know who it is? Think again. Number 4, Changbin, the rapper who refuses to be called just an idol. This one right here? This one's been simmering for years, and if you understand even a fraction of the politics, the pride, and the brutal gatekeeping that defines the Korean hip-hop scene, then you already know why this entry is going to hit like a freight train. Seo Changbin, the compact powerhouse of raw lyrical fury who can spit bars so fast your brain needs a moment to catch up with your ears, has a dream that goes far beyond anything Stray Kids' discography has given him so far. Changbin wants to be recognized as a legitimate rapper, not an idol rapper, not a pretty good rapper for a K-pop group. Not the asterisk-laden compliment that the Korean hip-hop community throws at idol rappers like a participation trophy wrapped in condescension. He wants the real thing. A full solo project, a mixtape, an album, a body of work that stands on its own 2 feet in the broader landscape of Korean hip-hop and commands respect from the very community that has spent years looking down on people exactly like him. And the fact that this dream remains unfulfilled, despite Changbin possessing arguably the most ferocious technical rap ability in the entire 4th-generation idol space, tells you everything you need to know about how deep the walls between idol and real rapper still run in Korea. Let's set the stage here, because if you're not deeply familiar with the Korean hip-hop ecosystem, you might not fully grasp the weight of what Changbin is up against. In Korea, the hip-hop world and the idol world exist in a state of cold, occasionally hostile separation. On one side, you have the underground and indie hip-hop scene, artists who came up through cyphers, open mics, mixtape releases, and shows like Show Me the Money and High School Rapper. These are rappers who built their credibility bar by bar, who earn their stripes through lyrical battles, who view authenticity and self-made artistry as the foundational pillars of what hip-hop is supposed to be. On the other side, you have idol rappers, artists who are selected through company auditions, trained in systems that prioritize choreography and visual appeal alongside musical ability, and who perform within the framework of a group concept designed by a corporate entertainment machine. In the eyes of the Korean hip-hop purists, these 2 worlds aren't just different, they're fundamentally incompatible. An idol rapper, no matter how technically skilled, carries the original sin of having been manufactured. Their bars might be fire, but they were written in an air-conditioned company studio, not in a cramped underground rehearsal space. Their flow might be impeccable, but it was refined under the guidance of company vocal trainers, not forged in the pressure cooker of freestyle battles where your reputation lives or dies in 60 seconds. This prejudice is as old as K-pop itself, and it has survived despite, and sometimes in spite of overwhelming evidence to the contrary. And Changbin? Changbin has been accumulating that contrary evidence since the day he first stepped into a recording booth at JYP Entertainment. His technical abilities are not up for debate among anyone who actually understands rap as a craft. His speed is absurd. He can deliver complex multi-syllabic rhyme schemes at velocities that would leave most rappers gasping for breath, and he does it while maintaining crystal clear enunciation that ensures every single word lands with impact. His flow versatility is equally impressive. He can switch between aggressive, hard-hitting delivery and melodic, emotionally textured passages within the same verse, demonstrating a range that a lot of real rappers spend entire careers trying to develop. His writing, and this is the part that gets criminally overlooked in the idol rapper conversation, is genuinely personal, introspective, and rooted in real experience. As 1/3 of 3RACHA, Stray Kids' legendary producing and writing unit alongside Bangchan and Han, Changbin doesn't just perform words that someone else wrote for him. He writes his own. He produces his own. He sits in the creative trenches and builds songs from scratch, pouring his own stories, his own frustrations, his own ambitions into every bar. Tracks where he addresses the idol rapper stigma directly, where he talks about proving doubters wrong, where he channels the chip on his shoulder into lyrical ammunition. These aren't manufactured storylines. These are genuine emotional documents from a man who knows exactly what people say about him behind closed doors and refuses to let it define him. The 3RACHA SoundCloud releases, the SKZ player solo tracks, the verse-heavy performances at concerts where Changbin goes off script and just raps with an intensity that makes the entire arena hold its collective breath. All of these are glimpses of the solo artist that's straining to break free from the group framework. And they're not just good for an idol good. They're good. Period. Full stop. No qualifiers needed. But glimpses aren't a body of work, and therein lies the heartbreak of Changbin's unfulfilled dream. A SoundCloud release, no matter how fire, doesn't carry the same weight as a structured solo mixtape with a cohesive concept, professional distribution, and the kind of promotional push that forces the wider music industry to pay attention. A viral concert moment doesn't replace the credibility that comes from sitting down with respected hip-hop producers, crafting an entire project from front to back, and putting it out into the world with your name, and only your name, on the cover. Changbin hasn't had that moment yet. And the reasons are painfully familiar at this point in our list. Stray Kids' relentless schedule. The group-first mentality that JYP operates under during a group's peak commercial period. The logistical impossibility of carving out the months of focused creative work that a quality solo rap project demands when you're simultaneously preparing for world tours, recording group albums, filming content, and maintaining the exhausting cycle of promotion that keeps a top-tier K-pop group relevant. But there's another layer here that's specific to Changbin and the hip-hop dream, and it's worth naming out loud because it's the invisible barrier that technical skill alone can't break through. Even if Changbin released a solo mixtape tomorrow, even if it was objectively brilliant, lyrically devastating, and sonically innovative, he would still have to contend with the entrenched bias of a hip-hop community that has decided, often before even pressing play, that idol rappers don't count. He'd face scrutiny that non-idol rappers simply don't encounter. Every bar would be analyzed not just for quality but for authenticity. Every production choice would be questioned. Did he really make this? Or did his company's producers ghost produce it? Every emotional claim in his lyrics would be met with skepticism. Can you really rap about struggle when you've been a millionaire idol since your early 20s? It's an unfair, often hypocritical standard, but it's real, and Changbin is acutely aware of it. You can hear that awareness in his music. The way he preemptively addresses doubters, the way he emphasizes his writing credits, the way he brings up 3RACH's self-producing ethos almost like a shield against the inevitable accusations of inauthenticity. It's the behavior of someone who knows that the playing field isn't level and is determined to win on it anyway. And that determination, that stubborn, almost defiant refusal to accept the limitations that others have placed on his identity, is exactly what makes Changbin's dream so compelling. He's not asking the hip-hop world to lower its standards for him. He's asking it to apply those standards fairly and then watch him meet every single one. He wants to earn it the real way, through bars, through craft, through a solo project so undeniable that even the most hardened hip-hop elitist has to nod their head and admit that this idol kid can actually rap. That moment hasn't come yet. But when you watch Changbin perform, when you see that fire in his eyes during a rap verse, when you hear the raw hunger in his delivery, when you notice the way he attacks every syllable like it owes him something, you understand that this isn't a dream that's fading. It's a dream that's loading. And when it finally fires, the Korean hip-hop scene isn't just going to hear CO Changbin. It's going to have to reckon with him. Now, if you thought Changbin's battle for recognition was intense, number 3 is about to introduce you to a dream that exists in a completely different universe, one where the art isn't heard but seen, and the canvas isn't a beat but something you can literally touch. This next one is going to surprise you. Number 3, Hyunjin, the dancer who paints worlds nobody has seen yet. Here's a question that might rearrange everything you think you know about Hwang Hyunjin. What happens when one of the most visually stunning idols on the planet decides that being looked at isn't enough, that he wants to be the one showing the world something instead? Because that's exactly where we are with Hyunjin, and this dream is so far removed from anything the K-pop industry typically produces that it almost feels like it belongs in a parallel universe. Hyunjin wants a solo art exhibition, not a pop-up display at a fan event. Not a curated Instagram gallery with aesthetic filters and carefully angled photos. A real, legitimate, gallery wall, art world recognized exhibition where his paintings and visual creations hang in a space that has nothing to do with music, nothing to do with choreography, nothing to do with the idol persona that the world has attached to his name like a second skin. He wants to stand in a room full of his own art and be seen, truly seen, not as Hyunjin the Stray Kids member who happens to paint, but as Hwang Hyunjin the artist whose visual language speaks loudly enough to exist on its own terms. And the fact that this dream still lives in the realm of someday rather than right now is one of the most quietly tragic creative stories in the entire K-pop landscape. Let me take you into Hyunjin's relationship with visual art, because this isn't some recent hobby he picked up during a slow period between comebacks. This goes deep. Hyunjin has been drawn to visual creation for years, and the evidence is scattered across Stray Kids content like breadcrumbs leading to a side of him that the industry framework simply wasn't designed to showcase. He paints. Not casually, not as a relaxation technique that he does once every few months when he's feeling artsy. He paints with intention, with emotion, with a raw expressiveness that mirrors the way he dances, which is to say, he paints like someone who is trying to communicate something that words and movement alone can't fully capture. His artwork, from what fans have been able to see through social media posts, behind-the-scenes content, and gifs he's made for members and staff, tends toward the abstract and the emotionally expressive. Thick brushstrokes loaded with color. Compositions that feel intuitive rather than calculated. Pieces that don't try to represent the world as it is, but rather as it feels, messy, overwhelming, beautiful, and sometimes painful all at the same time. If you know anything about art history, you'd recognize echoes of abstract expressionism in his approach, the kind of emotional directness that artists like Willem de Kooning and Franz Klein championed, the idea that the act of creating is itself the meaning, that the canvas is a battlefield where the artist's inner world explodes into visibility. Now, is Hyunjin a trained fine artist with years of formal education? No. And that's actually part of what makes his artistic identity so fascinating and, in many ways, so pure. His approach to visual art is instinctive. It comes from the same place as his dancing, that deep, almost primal connection to emotional expression that bypasses intellectual analysis and goes straight to the gut. When Hyunjin dances, he doesn't just execute steps. He inhabits movement. He becomes the choreography in a way that makes every performance feel like a living painting. And when he paints, the reverse happens. His visual art carries the kinetic energy of dance, the sense of a body in motion, the feeling that the brush was moving not according to a plan, but according to an emotion that demanded physical release. That crossover between movement and visual art isn't accidental. It's the signature of an artist whose creative instincts don't respect the boundaries between mediums. Hyunjin doesn't see dance and painting as separate things. They're different languages for the same conversation, and the conversation is always about feeling, about capturing moments of emotional intensity that are too fleeting and too complex to be expressed any other way. And that perspective, that multidisciplinary creative vision, is exactly what makes the dream of a solo exhibition so tantalizing. Imagine walking into a gallery space designed to reflect Hyunjin's inner world. The walls covered with large-scale paintings that pulse with color and movement. Maybe some pieces are accompanied by video installations of his dance performances, creating a dialogue between the two mediums. Maybe the exhibition is organized not chronologically but emotionally, rooms dedicated to different feelings, different chapters of his life. Different stages of the journey from a trainee who almost didn't make it to a global idol who still feels like he has something to prove. The curatorial possibilities are extraordinary, and they're extraordinary precisely because Hyunjin's artistic output isn't generic. It's distinctly, unmistakably his. But the art world is its own ecosystem with its own gatekeepers, its own hierarchies, and its own deeply entrenched skepticism toward outsiders, especially outsiders who come from the entertainment industry. If you think the Korean hip-hop scene's bias against idol rappers is intense, the fine art world's attitude towards celebrity artists makes it look like a warm welcome. The art establishment has a long, well-documented history of dismissing creative work by famous people as vanity projects, hobbyist dabbling elevated by name recognition rather than genuine artistic merit. Actors who paint, musicians who sculpt, athletes who photograph, they're all met with the same raised eyebrow and the same unspoken question. Is this actually good, or are we just paying attention because of who you are? Hyunjin would walk into that conversation carrying the weight of being one of the most famous faces in K-pop, and every single piece of his work would be evaluated through a double lens. Is this art, or is this celebrity content masquerading as art? It's an unfair question, but it's the question that every celebrity artist has to answer, and answering it requires more than just talent. It requires a body of work substantial enough, coherent enough, and artistically developed enough to stand on its own when the celebrity context is stripped away. And that's where the time problem comes in again, relentless and unavoidable. Building a body of work for a legitimate exhibition isn't something you do in stolen hours between dance practices and recording sessions. It requires extended periods of creative focus, days, weeks, sometimes months of sustained artistic exploration where you can experiment, fail, iterate, and discover things about your own creative voice that you can't access when you're stealing 30 minutes with a canvas before collapsing into bed after a 14-hour schedule. Hyunjin has the talent. He has the emotional depth. He has the unique artistic perspective that comes from living a life that is simultaneously extraordinary and intensely pressured. What he doesn't have is the time and the institutional support to develop his visual art practice to the level where a solo exhibition wouldn't just be a fan event curiosity, but a genuine artistic statement that commands respect in spaces that have never heard a Stray Kids song. And you know what's both beautiful and heartbreaking about how Hyunjin handles this? He keeps creating anyway. He paints on flights. He sketches in waiting rooms. He gives his artwork away as gifts to people he loves, treating each piece not as a stepping stone toward exhibition glory, but as an act of emotional communication. Here, this is how I feel. This is what I can't say out loud. This is the part of me that doesn't fit into a 3-minute performance. Every painting he makes is simultaneously an act of artistic practice and an act of emotional survival, a way of processing the overwhelming intensity of his life through a medium that doesn't require an audience, a choreographer, or a production schedule. The canvas doesn't have a comeback date. The paint doesn't need to match a concept. The brush moves when Hyunjin tells it to, and it goes where his emotions lead, and for those brief moments, he's not an idol. He's just an artist, alone with his work. Free. The dream of the exhibition is the dream of sharing that freedom with the world, of saying, this is also who I am. Not instead of the dancer, not despite the idol, but alongside all of it. And when that day comes, when Hwang Hyunjin's paintings finally hang in a space designed to honor them as art rather than merchandise, it won't just be an exhibition. It will be a revelation. But we're not done yet. Not even close. Number 2 is going to take us somewhere intensely personal, into a battle that isn't about external recognition or artistic ambition, but about something far more intimate. Something that happens inside the mind, behind closed doors, in the silence between the noise. And if this next entry doesn't make you see this member in a completely new light, nothing will. Number 2, Han, the genius who's still fighting to feel free on his own stage. This is the one that's going to break you. I'm telling you right now, before we even get into it, if you have any emotional walls up, take them down, because what we're about to talk about isn't a dream about career milestones or artistic recognition. This is about something that happens in the invisible space between a heartbeat and a breath. This is about Han Jae-sung, one of the most brilliantly gifted songwriters and performers of his generation, and the dream he carries that no amount of sold-out arenas, no number of platinum certifications, no level of global fame has been able to grant him, the dream of standing on stage and feeling completely, unconditionally free. Free from the weight in his chest. Free from the racing thoughts. Free from the invisible enemy that has followed him from practice rooms to concert stages, from recording studios to airport terminals, from the highest highs of his career to the loneliest moments of his private life. Han Jae-sung dreams of performing without anxiety. And the fact that he's still dreaming about it, still fighting for it, still showing up night after night despite it, might be the most courageous story on this entire list. Let's talk about what anxiety actually means for someone in Han's position, because I think the word gets thrown around so casually in our cultural vocabulary that we've lost touch with how devastating it truly is when it reaches clinical severity. We're not talking about pre-show butterflies. We're not talking about the normal nervousness that every performer experiences when the lights hit and the crowd roars. What Han has described, across multiple candid moments that took extraordinary bravery to share publicly, is something far more debilitating. Panic disorder. The kind of anxiety that doesn't politely knock on the door and wait to be acknowledged. It kicks the door down, floods the room, and rewires your entire nervous system in seconds. Your heart rate spikes to dangerous levels. Your vision narrows. Your hands shake. Your breathing becomes shallow and desperate. Your mind, the same mind that can construct intricate rap verses and melody lines of staggering beauty, suddenly becomes your worst enemy, feeding you a loop of catastrophic thoughts that feel absolutely, terrifyingly real. I can't do this. Something is wrong. I need to get out. I'm going to collapse. Everyone is watching me fail. And this isn't happening in a quiet, private space where you can curl up and ride it out. This is happening on stages in front of tens of thousands of screaming fans. Under blinding lights. In the middle of choreography that demands precise physical coordination. With cameras capturing every micro-expression for millions of viewers watching live streams around the world. The sheer impossibility of what Han does, performing at the highest level of the most demanding entertainment industry on Earth, while carrying the weight of a mental health condition that can strike without warning, is almost incomprehensible when you truly sit with it. And he doesn't just perform adequately. He performs brilliantly. Han on stage is a force of nature. His rap delivery is explosive, technical, and emotionally charged in a way that makes you feel every single word in your bones. His vocal ability, and people don't talk about this enough, has developed into something genuinely impressive, with a tonal quality that carries both sweetness and edge in equal measure. His stage presence is magnetic, charismatic, and infectiously energetic. When you watch him perform during a concert and you don't know about his anxiety, you would never, not in a million years, guess that the person delivering that performance is simultaneously battling an internal storm that would incapacitate most people. That's not just professionalism. That's heroism dressed in an idol's costume. But here's what people miss when they celebrate Han's ability to push through his anxiety, and it's the part that connects directly to the dream we're talking about. Pushing through isn't the same as being free. Performing despite anxiety isn't the same as performing without it. Every show Han gets through is a victory, absolutely, but it's a victory won through endurance and willpower, not through joy and abandon. And the dream, the real, deep, almost sacred dream, is to experience the stage the way it's supposed to feel. The way he imagines it could feel. The way he sees it in the faces of performers who walk onto a stage and feel nothing but the music, the crowd, and the electric, transcendent joy of doing the thing they were born to do. Han wants that. He wants to stand center stage at a sold-out arena, hear the first beat drop, and feel nothing but exhilaration. Not exhilaration mixed with dread. Not joy tangled with the fear that a panic attack might be hiding around the corner of the next verse. Pure, uncontaminated, full-body freedom. The kind of freedom where the stage isn't a battlefield but a playground. Where the crowd's energy doesn't trigger a fight or flight response, but lifts him up like a wave carrying a surfer toward the horizon. Where his mind is fully present, not split between performing and monitoring his own internal threat level, not running background calculations about whether his heart rate is normal or whether the tightness in his chest is anxiety or something worse. Just present. Just alive. Just free. And the devastating beauty of this dream is that it reveals something about Han's character that goes so far beyond his talent that it makes you want to stand up and applaud the human being, not just the artist. Because he could have quit. At multiple points in his career, he could have stepped back, cited his mental health, which is entirely legitimate and would have been met with understanding from fans and industry alike. And reduced his exposure to the situations that trigger his worst episodes. No one would have blamed him. No one would have thought less of him. The K-pop industry has seen members take extended hiatuses for mental health reasons, and the response from fans has overwhelmingly been supportive and compassionate. Han had an off-ramp available to him, and he chose not to take it. Not because he's reckless. Not because he doesn't take his mental health seriously, he clearly does. And he's spoken about seeking professional help and developing coping strategies with a transparency that has genuinely helped destigmatize mental health conversations within the K-pop fan community. He chose to keep going because the stage is where he belongs, and he refuses to let anxiety take that from him. That refusal isn't stubbornness. It's love. He loves performing. He loves music. He loves the connection with fans. He loves the moment when a song he wrote from nothing, from a blank page and an empty beat, comes alive in a room full of people who feel it as deeply as he does. Anxiety wants to put a wall between Han and everything he loves about his calling, and every single time he walks onto that stage, he is choosing love over fear. He is choosing the dream over the obstacle. He is choosing to keep fighting for the version of himself that performs in total freedom, even if that version hasn't fully arrived yet. The members of Stray Kids know this about him. You can see it in the way they subtly adjust their positions during performances, staying physically close to him during moments when they know he might be struggling. You can see it in the way Bang Chan checks on him during concerts with a glance that's so quick most fans miss it, but so loaded with concern and protectiveness that it speaks volumes about the bond within the group. You can see it in the way Changbin, his fellow 3RACHA member and creative partner, hypes him up before stages with an energy that goes beyond professional teamwork into something that looks a lot like a brother saying, "I've got you. You're not alone in this." The support system is there, and it's beautiful, but support isn't a cure. The people who love Han can stand beside him, but they can't fight the battle that happens inside his own mind. That fight is his alone, and he fights it every single day with a bravery that most people will never have to muster, because most people will never face their deepest fear in front of a live global audience on a regular basis. So when I say that Han's unfulfilled dream is to perform in complete freedom from anxiety, I need you to understand the magnitude of what that represents. It's not just a wish for better mental health, though it is that too. It's a wish for wholeness. For the experience of his own art, his own stage, his own life's work untainted by the shadow that has followed him since before the world knew his name. It's the dream of meeting the stage not as a soldier meets a battlefield, but as a child meets a playground, with open arms, wild laughter, and the total, reckless, breathtaking freedom of someone who has nothing to fear and everything to feel. That day may come gradually. It may come through continued therapy, through neurological maturation, through the slow accumulation of safe experiences that rewire the brain's threat response over time. Or it may come in a single, blinding moment, one performance where the switch flips and the anxiety simply isn't there, and Han stands in the silence before the music starts and realizes, for the first time, that the only thing in his chest is joy. Number 1, Bang Chan, the leader whose biggest dream was never about himself. We've arrived. The final stop. The top of the list. And if you thought this was going to be about chart records, Grammy nominations, or some massive career milestone that looks good on a Wikipedia page, I need you to recalibrate everything right now. Because the number 1 dream on this list, the unfulfilled ambition that sits at the very core of Bang Chan's existence, is so deeply personal, so achingly human, and so profoundly tied to sacrifice that it might just change the way you see not only him, but the entire concept of what it means to be a leader. Christopher Bang, the boy from Sydney, Australia, who boarded a plane at 13 years old, landed in a country where he barely spoke the language, and walked into a training system that would consume the next 7 years of his life before he ever saw a stage, has a dream that has been whispering to him since that very first day away from home. Bang Chan dreams of going home. Not visiting. Not a 48-hour layover between tour stops where he hugs his parents at the airport, eats his mom's cooking for one meal, plays with the family dog for an afternoon, and then boards another flight back to the life that the world demands from him. He dreams of presence. Real, sustained, unhurried presence with the family that gave him up, not because they wanted to, but because they believed in him enough to let their teenage son walk into the unknown alone. He dreams of being a son who is actually there. A brother who watches his sister grow up in real time, not through video calls and care packages sent across oceans. He dreams of sitting at the dinner table on a regular Tuesday night, not a scheduled holiday visit, and having nowhere else to be. No flight to catch. No schedule to keep. No world waiting for him to hold it together. Just home. Just family. Just the life that he traded away at an age when most kids are worried about homework and weekend plans. And if that doesn't shatter something inside you, then you haven't fully reckoned with what Bang Chan gave up to become the person the world sees today. Let's go back to the beginning, because the weight of this dream only makes sense when you understand the full scope of the sacrifice that created it. Bang Chan was 13. 13. Let that number sit in your mind for a moment. At 13, your world is supposed to be small and safe. School hallways, neighborhood streets, the familiar rhythm of a family home where someone calls you down for dinner and asks about your day. Bang Chan's world exploded at 13. He left Sydney, left his parents, left his younger sister, left every anchor of comfort and familiarity that a child relies on, and moved to Seoul, South Korea, to become a trainee at JYP Entertainment. And trainee in the K-pop system isn't some casual after-school program. It's a full immersion, all-consuming gauntlet of vocal training, dance practice, language study, personality evaluation, and relentless competition against other trainees who are all fighting for the same impossibly small number of debut spots. The days are long. The feedback is brutal. The uncertainty is constant. And the homesickness, the kind of homesickness that a 13-year-old feels when he's separated from his family by an entire ocean and a 14-hour time difference, is a wound that doesn't fully close. It just becomes something you learn to carry. And Bang Chan carried it for 7 years. 7 years of training. 7 years of watching other trainees debut while he waited. 7 years of evaluations where his future hung in the balance. 7 years of missed birthdays, missed holidays, missed milestones in his family's life that he experienced through phone screens instead of in person. 7 years of being alone in a way that most people never have to experience, especially not at an age when the need for family is still hardwired into every cell of your being. And during those 7 years, he didn't just survive. He built. He learned Korean until he was fluent. He taught himself music production until he could construct entire songs from scratch. He developed his vocal and rap abilities until he was versatile enough to handle any musical role demanded of him. He became the kind of person that other trainees looked to for guidance, for stability, for the reassurance that the sacrifices they were all making would eventually mean something. He became a leader before he ever had a group to lead. And when the opportunity finally came, when JYP gave him the chance to form his own group through the survival show that would become Stray Kids' origin story, Bang Chan didn't just pick the most talented trainees. He picked the ones he believed in. The ones the system had overlooked. The ones who reminded him, perhaps, of a 13-year-old kid from Sydney who had nothing but a dream and the stubbornness to keep chasing it even when the road seemed impossibly long. He built Stray Kids the way he built himself, with patience, with resilience, with an almost supernatural ability to see potential where others saw limitation. And then he led them to heights that nobody predicted. A self-producing group from a mid-tier company that climbed to the absolute summit of the global K-pop landscape. Stadium tours. Billboard records. A creative autonomy that is virtually unmatched in the industry. All of it built on the foundation of a leader who pours every ounce of himself into ensuring that his members succeed, that their music is authentic, that their bond is real, and that the group he assembled from broken pieces becomes something unbreakable. But the cost. The cost is the dream we're talking about right now. Every hour Bang Chan spends in the studio producing tracks until 4 a.m. is an hour he's not spending with his family. Every month on a world tour is a month of his sister's life that he misses. Every holiday spent in a practice room or a hotel room or a concert venue is a holiday where his parents set a place at the table that stays empty. And he feels it. You can see it if you know where to look. In the late-night Chan's Room live streams where he plays music for fans and talks about life, those quiet, intimate broadcasts that feel less like idle content and more like a conversation with a friend who can't sleep. There are moments when the topic of family comes up and something shifts behind his eyes. The leader mask slips, just for a fraction of a second, and you see the boy from Sydney who misses his mom and dad so much that it physically hurts. He talks about his family with a tenderness that is almost painful to witness because you can hear the distance in it, not emotional distance, but physical distance, the cruel, unavoidable geography of a life split between two hemispheres. He loves them with a ferocity that's palpable. 8 members. 8 dreams. And not a single one of them is about fame, money, or trophies. That tells you everything. Behind the world tours and the Billboard records, Stray Kids are 8 human beings still reaching for something the spotlight can't give them: artistic freedom, personal healing, creative identity, and the people they love. The stage made them legends. But these dreams? These dreams make them real. That's a wrap, Stays. Thanks for sticking with every single number. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep fighting, and never forget, the best chapters are always the ones that haven't been written yet.